Hello, and welcome to the EOUSA Senior Level Continuity of Operations Training PowerPoint presentation. This presentation provides a brief overview of the EOUSA Continuity of Operations or COOP plan. In it, we discuss the plan components, planning assumptions, and requirements. We will discuss the process used to identify EOUSA mission essential functions by conducting a sample business impact analysis and show how it helps the COOP plan development, execution, and maintenance. By the end of this presentation, we hope to provide you with tools to help understand how EOUSA reviews and revises essential functions and the COOP plan using the continuity review process. During this presentation, we will give a brief overview of the continuity concepts, provide a short tutorial on selecting essential functions, and give a summary of the EOUSA COOP plan. In this section, we will provide an overview of continuity. As a federal agency, the Department of Justice is required by the references listed to develop and implement a continuity of operations and a continuity of government program. The goal of both is to ensure that the government organizations can continue to support the performance of all national-level essential functions. Presidential Policy Directive 40, National Continuity Policy, directs the Secretary of Homeland Security through the Federal Emergency Management Agency's administrator to coordinate the implementation, execution, and assessment of continuity activities among executive departments and agencies. Specifically, the administrator of FEMA is directed to develop and promulgate federal continuity directives to establish continuity program and planning requirements for executive departments and agencies. Federal Continuity Directive 1 implements this requirement by selecting the framework, needs, and processes to support the development of departments and agencies' continuity programs and by specifying and defining elements of a continuity plan. These required elements include delineating essential functions, succession to office and delegations of authority, safekeeping of and access to essential records, continuity locations, continuity communications, human resources planning, and devolution of essential functions, reconstruction, and program validation through testing, training, and exercises. Federal Continuity Directive 2 implements the requirements of FCD 1, Annex B, Essential Functions, and provides direction and guidance to federal executive branch departments and agencies to assist in validation of mission essential function and primary mission essential function. The updating and validation of essential functions include conducting a comprehensive business process analysis to understand the necessary processes for organizational procedures and requirements. Order 1900-8 requires the Department of Justice to have a COOP and occupant emergency plan and defines roles and responsibilities for creating, implementing, training, and maintaining those plans. Order 1900-8 was updated by Order 1702 in June of 2019. Continuity capability addresses an organization's ability to continue to perform its essential functions using continuity of operations, continuity of government programs, and continuity requirements that have been integrated into the organization's daily operations. The primary goal is to preserve our form of government under the U.S. Constitution and the continued performance of national essential functions under all conditions. Building upon a foundation of continuity planning and continuity program management, the pillars of a continuity capability are leadership, staff, communications, and facilities. This definition provides a framework for how and why these programs are essential for all federal government agencies to have. This definition provides a framework for how and why these programs are essential for all federal agencies to have. These programs ensure that the Department of Justice and other federal agencies can function after an emergency of national significance impacts their everyday operations and supports the federal government's ability to continue to operate on a national level after a crisis of national significance. As mentioned previously, there are 8 designated national essential functions. National essential functions are the foundation of all continuity programs and the government's primary focus before, during, and after an emergency of national significance. These national essential functions are accomplished and supported in collaboration with federal departments and agencies who perform their mission essential function. National essential functions are further supported by integrating state, local, tribal, territorial, non-governmental, and public organizations' efforts in performing their essential functions. Now that we have talked briefly about national essential functions, let's discuss how and why essential functions are selected. We will use this section's information to demonstrate how the Department of Justice and EOUSA establishes and reviews essential functions. Essential functions are broken down into 3 categories: government functions, essential functions, and primary mission essential function. Government functions are those collective functions of the Executive Office of the President and department and agency that have been defined and designated by the federal government that the federal government says it performs and are mandated to be completed by statute, regulation, presidential direction, or other legal authority to include the functions of the legislative and judicial branches. Essential functions are a subset of government functions that are determined to be critical activities. These essential functions are used to identify supporting tasks and resources included in the organization's continuity planning process. In the Federal Continuity Directive, the term essential functions refers to those functions an organization must continue in a continuity situation. Essential functions, primary mission essential function, or essential supporting activities. Primary mission essential functions are those essential functions that must be continuously performed to support or implement the uninterrupted performance of national essential functions. Whereas government functions and primary mission essential functions focus on how a federal agency or department supports the performance of national essential functions, mission essential functions, and essential supporting activities focus on individual organizations and how they will function during a continuity activation. Mission essential functions are an organization's mission outlined in statutory or executive charter and unique to each organization. Essential supporting activities are critical functions that an organization must continue during a continuity activation, but that do not meet the threshold for designation as an essential functions or a primary mission essential function. No discussion about continuity would be complete without defining the differences between what is considered a mission and what is not considered a department or agency's mission. If a function resulted in delivering a service to the public or another department or agency, it is viewed as a department or organization's mission. If a function results in internal use, it is a non-mission activity. Non-mission activities are common to most departments and agencies, such as providing information technology support. Non-mission activities are typically enablers that make it possible for a department or agency to accomplish its mission. Along with defining what a mission is, we complete the process by defining which functions are essential and which functions are non-essential during an emergency. If a function must be performed during an emergency, it is considered essential. Essential functions are functions that must be continued under all threats and conditions. Functions that can be deferred until after an emergency has subsided should be identified as non-essential. Utilizing what we have covered so far, we will now get into how a department or agency selects mission essential functions. The Mission Essential Function Identification process in Annex B of the Federal Continuity Directive 2, Figure B1, outlines a three-step process to support the identification, review, and initial validation of the Mission Essential Function. In Step 1, an organization identifies and lists all primary organizational functions that support the department's mission or agency's mission. As part of this step, an organization may review and validate existing organizational functions lists as appropriate. The list of organizational functions must include a description of each function in basic terms, the requirement to perform each function, listing the applicable statute, regulation, presidential directive, or other legal authority, and the products or services delivered or actions each function accomplishes. Step 2 involves identifying and listing all primary organizational functions that support the performance of its mission. Review each specified function and determine which functions are potential new mission essential functions. When identifying mission essential functions, make sure to review the existing mission essential functions and make necessary updates as appropriate. Include a review of functions performed at all locations where the organization's mission is executed. An understanding of essential and non-essential functions and essential supporting activities will aid in identifying priority functions. After completing Steps 1 and 2, you should have a draft list of its mission essential functions and essential supporting activities. This list should be presented to leadership for initial review and concurrence. Obtaining concurrence or approval of mission essential functions and essential supporting activities allows an organization to conduct an efficient, effective, and targeted business process analysis and business impact analysis of the identified essential functions. This form is the Organizational Function Worksheet, Form 1. It is found in Annex G of the Federal Continuity Directive 2. The form is used to assist departments and agencies when identifying, reviewing, validating, and prioritizing organizational mission essential functions. It follows the three-step mission essential function identification process. On the form, organizational functions are listed, the requirement to perform those functions, and the products or services produced from those functions' performance completing Step 1 of the process. To complete Step 2, the form allows you to check all the boxes that apply to the functions to determine if a function is an essential function or an essential supporting activity. Once the form is completed, it may be used to present to leadership for review and concurrence, completing Step 3 of the process. The information on this form is also used to identify potential primary mission essential functions. Remember that primary mission essential functions are mission essential functions that must be performed by a department or agency to support the performance of national essential functions. EOUSA uses a modified version of the Mission Essential Function datasheet found in Annex G of the Federal Continuity Directive 2. The form provides a tool to document more detailed information about a mission essential function and the primary mission essential function it supports. Information from this form will be used for the business process analysis and the business impact analysis, which must be conducted as part of the continuity of operations planning process. We will provide a brief overview of the business analysis process and business impact analysis process in the next section of this presentation. The business process analysis process is a systematic method of examining, identifying, and mapping the functional processes, workflows, activities, personnel expertise, systems, data, interdependencies, alternate locations, and other resources needed to perform a mission essential function. The mission essential function identification process identifies what essential function an organization must continue, and the business process analysis process determines how these essential functions are performed. Through the business process analysis, departments and agencies must clearly describe how each mission essential function is performed, to include process flows and operational details, and identify appropriate resources that must be available during or immediately following a disruption to regular operations to enable the rapid resumption of mission essential function performance. The business impact analysis process provides a method of identifying the potential negative impacts of failing to perform an essential function. It is used to assess comparative risk for mission essential function and primary mission essential function, to include the processes and critical assets that support their performance and informs broader risk analysis and risk management efforts. The business impact analysis assists in prioritizing essential functions and supporting resources, considering the consequences of their loss or degradation and their criticality to the organization's mission. A formal review, update, and validation of the organization's essential functions through a business impact analysis must be conducted every 2 years. This analytic approach defines how robust an organization's continuity program shall be and underscores that strengthening the continuity program will enhance the enterprise, making the organization more resilient regardless of the challenges it may face. Structured and in-depth analysis enables organizations to consider and allocate resources to those areas of most significant risk and where the most benefit from investment may be achieved. Analytic findings and supporting documentation further enable justification of needed resources and determinations on resource allocations throughout the organization. Investing in those areas critical to the performance of an organization's essential functions will further allow agencies to build resilience and more readily adapt to evolving threats. The use of analysis and related tools will maximize the organization's use of resources given dependency considerations for the performance of both steady-state functions and essential functions during a catastrophic emergency. Step 1 of the business process analysis is intended to identify products, services, and information resulting from the performance of the mission essential functions. An organization also identifies the partners and stakeholders that receive the outputs. The description must include appropriate metrics that identify specific performance measures and standards, as the mission essential function output timeframes will inform the business impact analysis. Step 2 identifies products, services, information, supplies, equipments, and other resources required to perform the mission essential function and deliver mission essential function outputs, internal to the organization or depend on external partners. Organizations must identify what input is required, from whom, and when, as the information may be required at the beginning of mission essential function performance or as the functional process proceeds. The inputs description must include delivery time requirements, which will inform the business impact analysis. Step 3 focuses on identifying dependencies and interdependencies with partners and stakeholders required to perform the mission essential functions, to include other government organizations, critical infrastructure owners and operators, non-governmental organizations, private sector organizations, and others as appropriate. The description must include information on dependent organizations' ability, and expectations to provide required inputs during a disruption to normal operations. Step 4 includes organizational leadership required to make decisions and perform other vital actions necessary to perform the mission essential functions. The description must include the location of appropriate senior leadership, specifically if their activity can be performed remotely or needed at a specific facility, and communication requirements to support mission essential function performance. Step 5 requires an organization to identify staff needed to perform the mission essential function. The description must include appropriate knowledge, skills, abilities, expertise, experience, certification, licenses, clearances, or permissions needed, and the number of staff required to perform the mission essential function. In Step 6, an organization identifies communications and information systems required to perform its mission essential functions. The description must include specific capabilities or data needed, classification requirements, and other unique requirements. The description must also have information on system dependencies and interfaces with other systems or data sources. Step 7 identifies facility requirements needed to perform the organization's mission essential function. The description must include space, configuration, security, safety, support services, for example, lodging, food services, medical support, and storage requirements appropriate for the organization's operations. Step 8 includes identifying resource and budget requirements to perform the mission essential function for up to 30 days following a continuity activation or until normal operations are resumed. Resources not yet captured in the business process analysis may include standard operating procedures, essential records, and reference materials required for mission essential function performance. The description must include and account for funding requirements for all identified resources needed to perform the mission essential function and essential supporting activities. Finally, in Step 9, an organization develops a narrative description that captures all information gathered during Steps 1 through 8 and describes the process of performing the mission essential function. The organization will create appropriate diagrams or other informational aids to support the narrative description. Documenting the process will describe how the mission essential function is accomplished and validate the information compiled and limit any details omissions. As stated earlier, the business process analysis provides a method of identifying the potential negative impacts of failing to perform an essential function. This 5-step process is used to assess comparative risk for mission essential functions and primary mission essential functions, to include the processes and critical assets that support their performance and informs broader risk analysis and risk management efforts, considering the consequences of their loss or degradation and their criticality to the organization's mission. The first step in the business process analysis process is to define the scope of their analysis. When scoping the requirements and constraints of this impact analysis, the organization must analyze the organization's essential functions, the criticality of essential functions, and supporting infrastructure and other resources, and the consequences and cascading efforts of degradation, disruption, or failure to perform essential functions and timeframes associated with those consequences. In Step 2, an organization identifies key staff, subject matter experts, and appropriate leadership to support the business impact analysis process. Departments and agencies must identify personnel with knowledge of each resource requirement specified in the business process analysis process and know all aspects of performing the mission essential functions and essential supporting actions. They must understand the function's criticality, risks of its failure, and dependencies for mission essential function performance. Key personnel includes, but are not limited to, those with expertise in program management, finance, communications and IT, facilities, emergency management, security, business operations, essential records, and risk analysis. Step 3 consists of an organization considering what could potentially disrupt the mission essential functions performance, including terrorist and criminal threats, natural hazards, technological hazards, service disruptions, and various non-obvious risks. Step 4 requires organizations to analyze and determine acceptable versus unacceptable downtimes for mission essential function and resource requirements identified in the business process analysis based on input from personnel that supports those functions and have requisite experience in critical areas. For example, a 12-hour delay to start processing disaster claims may be acceptable, while a 12-hour delay for initiating search and rescue missions is not acceptable. In the final step of the process, an organization documents the business impact analysis process using the information gathered during steps 1 through 4. Documenting the process will describe potential impacts and mission essential function performance and resource requirement availability and will be used to inform decision making on resource allocation to manage risks. As part of biennial continuity assessments conducted by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, departments and agencies must affirm that risks to the performance of its mission essential function and primary mission essential function have been evaluated and documented as part of its business impact analysis. Here is an example of the potential threats and hazards identified and analyzed during a business impact analysis. A more detailed list can be found in Annex D, Table D-1 of the Federal Continuity Directive 2. Here is an example of a risk mitigation worksheet. This worksheet is used to develop mitigation strategies associated with the threats and hazards identified in the business impact analysis process. Additional detailed information on the business process analysis and the business impact analysis process, including forms, can be found in the Federal Continuity Directive 2. Completing the business process analysis and business impact analysis process for each mission essential function ensures that a department or agency will have the ability to perform its mission essential functions and primary mission essential functions during a disruption of their operations or in support of disruption to federal government operations. So far, we have covered what continuity is. We have discussed the process used to identify essential functions, mission essential functions, and primary mission essential functions for an organization. We will now discuss the EOUSA COOP plan, its components and requirements. PPD 40, National Continuity Policy, sets forth the policy of the United States to maintain a comprehensive and effective continuity capability through continuity of operations, continuity of government, and enduring constitutional government programs ensuring the preservation of government structure under the United States Constitution and continuing performance of national essential functions under all conditions. All departments and agencies, regardless of size or location, must have a viable continuity capability to ensure organizational resilience and continued performance of essential functions under all conditions. The foundation of feasible and robust continuity programs and capabilities is understanding a commitment to the organization's essential functions' continued performance. Organizations must consider and fully integrate continuity planning and procedures into all aspects of daily operations to create a culture of continuity that will ensure a seamless continuation of essential functions under all conditions. The EOUSA COOP plan is based on these requirements. The Department of Justice primary mission essential functions were developed to support the national essential functions. They form the backbone of the EOUSA COOP plan. EOUSA's mission is to provide support to the offices of the U.S. attorneys. Because this support does not rise to the level of an essential function of primary function, EOUSA's mission is designated as being an essential supporting activity because it supports the U.S. attorneys in performing their mission. EOUSA does have other designated mission essential functions besides its support to offices for U.S. attorneys. Pursuant to the process outlined in Federal Continuity Directive 2, the National Continuity Coordinator approved one mission essential function for EOUSA. This mission essential function supports the Department of Justice's primary mission essential function number 5, conduct federal law enforcement activities and coordinate federal law enforcement response as needed in national and international emergencies, mirrors EOUSA's primary mission, and supports the continued performance of USAO mission essential functions. This chart summarizes the principal elements of EOUSA's mission essential function. EOUSA staffs perform essential functions to ensure the ability of EOUSA to fulfill its mission essential function. Those essential functions are listed in Annex A of the EOUSA COOP plan. Building on EOUSA's mission essential function, and essential support activity, the EOUSA COOP plan contains specific information that directs EOUSA operations if a significant incident disrupts EOUSA operations. The plan includes information about orders of succession and delegations of authority to ensure there is continuity in EOUSA governance during and after the incident. The plan is organized into 4 phases: readiness and preparedness, activation, continuity of operation includes devolution operations and reconstruction operations. This phase of any continuity situation will always be maintaining the preparedness of the organization and employees. EOUSA focuses on 2 key areas: organizational readiness and preparedness, and staff readiness and preparedness. For organizational readiness and preparedness, EOUSA conducts readiness and preparedness activities to ensure its personnel can continue essential functions in all hazard risk environment. For a catastrophic event in the National Capital Region, EOUSA follows the guidelines outlined in the Continuity of Government Readiness Conditions outlined in Federal Continuity Directive 1. The Assistant Director, Security and Emergency Management staff manages security and response activities for any EOUSA-specific emergencies not centrally managed by the Department of Justice. To address staff readiness and preparedness, all EOUSA personnel must also prepare individually for a continuity event. EOUSA personnel should plan what to do in an emergency and should develop a family support plan to increase personal and family preparedness. To ensure that all EOUSA employees and their roles and responsibilities before, during, and after a continuity event, EOUSA has incorporated continuity training in all new employee orientations and annual training requirements. In addition to yearly training, the plan requires that all employees be equipped with the necessary equipment and administrative support to prepare for a continuity event. Not all emergencies require activation of the plan, but EOUSA follows the EOUSA COOP plan activation procedures when one does. The Director, EOUSA, will order the plan's activation based on the projected or actual impact and severity of an emergency. Activation will generally occur within the first 12 hours after a threat or incident. Within the National Capital Region, EOUSA follows the Continuity of Government Readiness Condition System, which applies to federal agencies in the National Capital Region. The President will direct any changes in continuity of government readiness condition based on threat indicators or a catastrophic event. At Continuity of Government Readiness Condition 1, which is the highest level, activation of department and agency COOP plans and relocation to alternate facilities is mandatory. Less severe events can also require activation of the COOP plan. The Director, EOUSA, will make an activation decision based on the situation. During a COOP plan activation, the Federal Continuity Directive 1 requires identifying and activating an emergency relocation group. The Emergency Relocation Group's primary responsibility is to continue performing essential functions at an alternate location if their primary operating facility or facilities are impacted or incapacitated by an incident. The Emergency Relocation Group must include primary and alternate staff who relocate during a continuity event. Essential relocation group staff members must be identified and designated in writing for each essential function. Each emergency relocation group member must be trained and equipped to carry out the essential function they have been designated to support. Upon activation of the COOP plan, EOUSA will continue to operate at its primary operating facilities until ordered to relocate. The Director, EOUSA, will issue guidance based on the COG-CON or scenario levels. In all situations involving disruption of operations at primary operating facilities, EOUSA Emergency Relocation Group personnel must perform or support the performance of EOUSA's essential supporting activity within 12 hours of an event and will ensure the continuity of operations of essential government functions for up to 30 days from alternate facilities or, in some cases, longer. The final phase of EOUSA's COOP plan is reconstruction. In this phase, if the emergency directly affected EOUSA facilities, the Deputy Director for Administration and Management is responsible for coordinating all salvage, restoration, and recovery activities for the impacted facilities in coordination with Justice Management Division. A Reconstitution Committee comprising representatives of all EOUSA's principal offices assists in reconstruction planning efforts and is responsible for ensuring that employees are updated on reconstitution developments. In this presentation, we have covered the basics of the continuity and the EOUSA Continuity of Operations Plan. We recommend reviewing the complete COOP plan to become familiar with your roles and responsibilities during a declared EOUSA continuity event. The current plan is being reviewed and updated and will be published soon. If you have any questions or comments about the EOUSA Continuity of Operations Plan or general emergency management questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.